So it is over. The Cinderella story here for the Chicago Blackhawks has officially closed. The Chicago Blackhawks have been eliminated by the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 5 games. We'll be taking a look at this series, how things went for both teams, and how this looks going into the future for both of these teams. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. And let's take a look at how the Vegas Golden Knights eliminated the Chicago Blackhawks. So this is it. So the Vegas Golden Knights move on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Unfortunately, the ninth NHL team to be eliminated in this year's bubble round playoff situation is the Chicago Blackhawks. And the Chicago Blackhawks didn't go away quietly. They put together a pretty good fight here against going into this season and going into the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights were one of the top teams in consideration. The Chicago Blackhawks were supposed to lose in the play-in round to the Edmonton Oilers. They found a way to beat the Oilers in pretty convincing fashion. And yeah, they lost in 5 games here to the Vegas Golden Knights, but most of the games were pretty close. So we'll be taking a look at that in this video. So game 1, all the way back last week, we saw the Blackhawks and the Golden Knights. The big story going into this series was, you've got Robin Lehner, who was with the Chicago Blackhawks, signed last offseason with the Chicago Blackhawks, and is now playing with the Vegas Golden Knights, who they traded at this year's trade deadline. And both goaltenders, Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner, played at different times in this series, kind of like what we saw with the Carolina Hurricanes, with James Reimer and Peter Mrazek going back and forth. We saw that in this series as well. So that was a nice little storyline going into it. Game 1, it was pretty much Vegas most of the way. They end up winning Game 1 4-1. It was a good start to the series for them. They were able to put in a couple goals, and they were able to keep the Blackhawks' top guys off the board. And that was really a big theme for most of this series. Then we go on to Game 2. Once again, the Vegas Golden Knights put up another 4-goal game. It was a lot closer, though. It was a 4-3 finish, a great game. But once again, able to score some goals against the Chicago Blackhawks. And that seemed to be an issue early on in this series, and it just seemed like Chicago could not ever really figure that out. And then we get to Game 3, and it looked like the Golden Knights were going to run away with this series. They win another close game, 2-1. So it was another tight game in this scenario. But once again, the Golden Knights are able to prevail. A lot closer in this game, like Game 2. It was a lot closer, only a 1-goal differential between the two teams. But once again, the Blackhawks' depth really became an issue as we get into this series. So we'll be taking a look at that. So now we've got Game 4, where the Blackhawks finally break through. They got their backs up against the wall, down 3-0 in a series, trying to avoid the sweep. They do avoid the sweep. Corey Crawford with a 52 or 54 save performance in that game. It was a 3-1 win for the Chicago Blackhawks. And that's the only win that we hear about here in this series for the Chicago Blackhawks, as the other night, the Golden Knights took care of business and won this series, beating the Blackhawks 4-3 in Game 5, eliminating the Chicago Blackhawks. Like I was saying, the Blackhawks' depth was really an issue in this series. We saw David Quenneville on the top line going into Game 5. That seemed to be an issue. The Blackhawks going into Game 5, they looked actually pretty solid in those first couple of minutes. And then after that, the Golden Knights kind of ran away with things, were able to really play their game, and it ended up costing them. The defense looked a little bit spotty during the game there in Game 5 for the Golden Knights, so it's a little bit of an improvement they have going into their next series, which is likely against the Dallas Stars, but we'll see how that series goes moving forward right now. So definitely interesting to see how this plays out. The Golden Knights are going to have a stiff test coming either the Calgary Flames or the Dallas Stars, so they have a couple days off. They didn't sweep the Chicago Blackhawks. We've seen how last year that kind of affected teams, sweeping teams and having so many days off actually hurt them going into the next series. So I think that's actually not the worst thing here for the Vegas Golden Knights. They are indeed the top team right now in the Western Conference. You could argue with the Colorado Avalanche with how they handled the Arizona Coyotes. I'll be making a video about that later, but a great series for the Vegas Golden Knights. They look pretty solid. Like I said, defense was a little bit questionable. The goaltending looks solid, both Fleury and Lehner. So we'll see how things play out for the Vegas Golden Knights moving forward. And for the Chicago Blackhawks, yeah, it was a disappointing effort. I mean, you know what, considering going into this season, everybody was, they just got the 3rd overall pick last year in Kirby Dach. They go into this season with, they're still a rebuilding team, but Stan Bowman may be on the hot seat a little bit if they don't make the playoffs. Well, technically, they make the playoffs. They beat the Edmonton Oilers, who, led by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It's a pretty tough team to beat. So they get back into the playoffs this year, and yeah, I mean, it came down to game 1. That was the only game where it really wasn't close. Every other game was a close fight to the end, and unfortunately, the Blackhawks just, like I said, the depth was an issue in this series, and the top guys were there, but it wasn't enough for the Blackhawks. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Vegas Golden Knights winning this series in 5 games? Let me know in the comment section down below. And what did the Chicago Blackhawks have to do this offseason? I think they need to add a little bit of depth up front, and they got to fix some issues on the blue line. So we'll be taking a look at that in our Blackhawks offseason outlook. We'll be taking a look at that in a couple of weeks. But thank you for watching this video. Comment down below what you think. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.